On. I'm really enjoying knocking all these interviews out. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Comics for All. Thank you for joining us wherever you are in the world. My name is Jameson. I'm your host here at Comics for All. I'm a comics librarian, and Comics for All is where comics, creativity, and community all connect. Today is Thursday, May 28th, so May the 28th be with you, Phil. I'm going to say it for the entire month. We have an interview series called Ink and Insight, where we get to interview people involved with comics from all over. And today we have the wonderful Phil Russer joining us from Philbo Entertainment. And Phil is also a comic creator himself. But Phil, how's your Thursday morning going? Or Thursday noon now over where you are?
Busy, but good. Doing what we can to keep moving forward.
That's right. That's a good attitude to have. So as a librarian, I like to ask a couple of reader-centric questions. But Phil, what hooked you into comics as a reader?
My brother started collecting comics before me. He's 3.5 years older, but I was never interested. I just like looking at the pictures.
Yeah.
But I saw Uncanny X-Men 115 with Sauron on the cover and Wolverine Nightcrawler
Yes.
Colossus. And then at the same time I saw 126 where they're all busting through the wall, Mutant X. And I was like 9. It's on a spinner rack, as you know, back then you could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they look so awesome, the characters. And I remember my brother had some of the books, but he would never let me touch them. So I picked them up and I actually sat down and read them. I was like, this is just incredible. And I was hooked ever since from 9 years old.
Wow, that's really great. I love that. Kind of the follow-up to that naturally is, when did you have the realization for yourself that you wanted to create and be part of the people who make the comics?
I never even thought about it, to be honest. I always had a vivid imagination, ideas, but I was intimidated by the idea of writing. And I think I was too impatient to write, because writing takes a certain amount of patience, right, to pace and set up and develop characters. And I wasn't patient. Well, in 2021, I got very sick. I was bedridden for 6 weeks. I actually wasn't looking good for me. And I decided, well, what is there to be afraid of now? So I started writing, and I just didn't look back. And the next thing I know, here I am. I've written over 100 scripts, and I've written a prose book, and I'm writing a fantasy novel now, and just loving it and enjoying it, and not stressing it at all. It's very cathartic for me.
Absolutely. We actually got a couple of comments already. Chuck Morgan says, "What's going on, Phil?" And then
don't watch out for that guy.
and we also have artist Victor Medina. He's the artist on DM Ray's book that we had on here not that long ago.
Yeah.
Well, I know. Go ahead, Phil.
I was just saying, what's up, guys?
Yeah, I'm really happy that we were able to have people this early in the morning over here. But I know we chatted about this before we got on, but I know not everybody has a lot of free time too. But have you read anything? Didn't have to even come out recently, but read anything that has stood out to you, comics or otherwise?
I haven't read recently, unfortunately, and I haven't read mainstream in a long time. I think the most recent thing I read mainstream was the Justice League versus Godzilla, because I'm a huge Godzilla fan. That was probably the last thing I read that was mainstream.
That was really good, actually. I enjoyed it too.
Yeah, I had fun. It was nice seeing Godzilla. I mean, I love Superman. I'm a big Superman fan, but I loved seeing him like that encounter in the beginning, and Superman didn't go well with Godzilla. So that was fun, and the artwork was great. And I do want to look into the Predator stuff. I heard it was pretty good. Predator, Wolverine, Black Panther, Spider-Man. So I'm interested in that, and I might pick those up in trades. But I try to be careful because I don't want to subconsciously be, influenced by other writing when I write. I try to be as fresh and new as possible, and I feel like, there's only so many stories you could tell in so many different ways as it is, because there's been millions of stories. Yes. And I just don't want to unintentionally or unconsciously, subconsciously be, influenced in any way where people go, oh, that's just like this. And then you go, oh man, that's right, it is. So I try to limit. I mean, I haven't read much in a while.
That's okay. That's actually a good perspective to have, and I agree with you that it can definitely influence writing. Kind of a follow up to that, even, uh, especially as someone who's in distribution and a creator yourself, what is exciting and/or positive to you about comics right now in 26?
Well, it's funny because everybody's talking about how readership is down, and I have too, and the issues with the industry. But I find that exciting because in order to change what wasn't working well, and I know people will argue with me that it was, but the evidence is there that it wasn't.
Correct.
You have to tear things down, and not that I'm happy about Diamond's demise. I would never be happy for any company to lose their business, but I think it was needed because they were the end all be all, and
Yes.
now I don't think that's healthy. I think what's healthy now is having multiple distribution outlets, having other options. um, I also think the indie scene is being taken a little more seriously lately,
Mm-hmm.
and there are more books coming out that are quality with quality artists like Victor Medina, and books like Chuck Morgan, that he does for his crime noir. So it's going to be a lot of hard work. There's got to be a lot of mental and perspective changes in the industry that I think
Mm-hmm.
start with retailers and as well as publishers. But I'm excited that the door is opening, and not that it's the Wild West per se, but sometimes you need it to be a little chaotic for people to start coming out and doing new things and trying to reinvent the wheel. And I think that's a healthy thing,
I'm with you.
to kind of reinvent the wheel. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with Filbo.
Excellent. Well, kind of a creative question on the back end for you. What are you, if you can give us some insight, what are you creatively working on here the next few months?
Oh, you mean as far as like titles and books, publishing, things like that?
Yeah, it's things you're creatively working on for your own stuff and/or distribution stuff. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, I have 5 issue zero scripts for 5 new titles. A lot of my books are a little more on the heavier side, content wise. So I wanted to write something that was a little more all ages, but at the same time fun, like like Marvel was in the '80s and stuff, more superheroic
Absolutely.
stuff, etc. Not so much grounded in reality, but gods and monsters and stuff. So I'm writing those. I wrote those, and just looking for artists for those. On the distribution side, we just continue to grow every month with our distribution. We sign on new publishers every day.
I love
And
that.
of course, now we're doing the print on demand, which solves probably about 90% of a publisher's issues right
Mm-hmm.
now. And when the publishers are able to solve those issues, then we can really start giving the retailers the incentives and discounts that they need to keep their doors open, because it's a domino effect. And for too long we've had middlemen coming in and taking all the money, and the creators are falling off and they're suffering, and then the retailers are struggling to keep their doors open.
That's right.
And I don't see this intelligence in that, because we need the retailers as the front line. They're the ones selling the books. But at the same time, they have nothing to sell if we don't have publishers that can afford to put out content. So um, we have to get away from the mentality of just Marvel, DC, bread and butter, because their sales numbers are not up. They're not what they were.
Right.
And you can only ride Absolute Batman for so long before we're going, what now? So I think independents have a very good opportunity if the publishers understand the business side of things, and they can come out of the gate understanding this business the way it needs to be run.
That's right. Well, diving into your creative path a little bit further before we dive into Papa Chapter 2, which is your new Kickstarter. For you, Phil, specifically when you're writing a story and putting things together, where do stories generally begin for you? Thematically, concept wise, a what if premise, where do they begin for you?
It's funny because Sean Chen, he laughs at me. He's like, "How the hell do you write a script so quickly?" And blah blah blah. So, because Sean's a very methodical guy, he thinks things through, and I just don't. I feel that's where you get writer's block. That's where you stop,
Mm-hmm.
and your motivation and your uh, momentum. So I'll usually just get a simple concept in my mind. of what I want it to be, and from there I'll flesh out, some of the main characters, antagonists, protagonists. What is the goal here? Like what are they going? What is the obstacle they're going to face, and what do they have to do to get through it? And then I just start writing. And to be honest with you, when I write, it's like I'm sitting around a campfire talking to a bunch of kids, or like I'm with my kids in the bunk beds with the sheets down in the
Uh-huh.
tent, and you're just making up a story. I don't put a lot of pressure on myself to write, because why?
Yeah.
Nobody has to see it if I don't want them to see it, and you can edit it and change it 1,000 times if you want. So I just tell the story, and then I give it to my wife, who's very honest, and my mother, who's very honest, and they'll tell me it was good. I like this part, this didn't work for me, or whatever. And then you tweak and go from there. But it always starts with a concept, and then kind of loose outline of the three major parts, right? What's the motivation? What's the obstacle? How are they going to get through it? And then I just write.
Love that. Um, and this is actually a question that kind of follows up into that, especially for creative works. Can you share some of your influences and inspirations outside of comics that bleed into your storytelling?
Well, outside of comics, I was a big Lord of the Rings fan. So J.R.R.
Mm-hmm.
Tolkien. I mean, he's a master at world building, language building, pacing. And the reason why I say that is, as someone who never had patience for reading, writing, etc., I did read The Lord of the Rings at a young age, at 9. And if you know, in the Fellowship, he spends like several chapters of them just walking through the forest, stopping to eat and talking. And I was invested. I was in the world for what was really boring chapters for the average person. I was invested. I loved it. And I was like, wow, this guy, he gets it. He knows how to hook you in. So that would be my biggest influence. I'm not a big follower of authors per se, but I'm a follower of stories.
There we go.
Timothy Zahn, who did the Thrawn trilogy for Star Wars, that's one of my favorite trilogies and books.
So good.
Um, it's just a shame that they didn't. I mean, I understand why, because you know what's coming, but that would have been a great adaptation for it, for the follow-ups. I even love Shadow of the Empire, which takes place between
Yes.
Empire and Return of the Jedi. It was a wonderful book.
I'm still waiting for Disney to somehow make that a project.
Yeah, and Prince Zizor being involved, that was really good. And again, both of them were written in ways that they were honoring and true to the characters and the
Yes.
lore. So you can't go wrong with anything Star Wars with those guys. And then there's like just movies and pop culture. Like some of my favorite movies are Falling Down with Michael Douglas, obviously Superman with Christopher Reeves, and The Crow, and Shawshank Redemption, things like that. So I think I got my idea of storytelling, before I understood what a third act was and all that. Just from watching so many movies and reading all these books, I think I absorbed the understanding, without understanding that I absorbed it,
Right.
of how you structure a story, and how you pace it and how you develop characters. So I don't have formal writing education, which I think a lot of indies don't. But I'm 53. I'm not a kid. I've absorbed quite a bit, and I've run into a lot of different personalities in the world
Yeah,
that you can draw from. You know.
it totally makes sense. Well, now it's time for us to dive into Papa, which is your issue 2 of the series. It's actually launching this evening. You're going to have a separate stream later tonight. So if you want to find out even more than what we're going to talk about, tune in at 10:30 Eastern Time, 7:30 Pacific. But for Papa, Phil, where did the core idea for it come from, and what made you realize, hey, this actually has legs to be a project?
So I wanted to have a character that was, in this major confrontation, that was older. I mean, I'm getting to the point where I'm getting older, and I've got less years ahead of me as good as behind me. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to write that, and then I wanted to create a conflict. And what I didn't realize subconsciously was I was kind of writing not the same dynamics of the conflict, but just the conflict itself of me and my father.
Right.
Um, my father was a very hard man. Um, he wasn't emotional like that. He was very tough. You weren't coming to him for emotional support. You came to him. He said, "Well, get up and fight and stop bitching. Stop
Yeah.
crying." So, I mean, he was bench pressing 165 pounds at 77 years old, 5 weeks before he died. So when I sent him the script, he was like, "Is this about us?" I was like, I didn't think about it, but I guess subconsciously it is. What's up, everybody? Um, and I wanted to write a Silver Age tale because a tragedy does have, death and things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
and as much as I enjoy anti-heroes like anybody else, I kind of a little anti-heroed out. We need a few real heroes again. So I wanted to write this as a Silver Age type tale. And he's a 75-year-old Vietnam vet who's kind of estranged with his son, though he lives with his son and his daughter-in-law, but he's close to his granddaughter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Long story short, the granddaughter, they get caught up between the Yakuza and the Italian mafia.
Ooh.
And the daughter is kidnapped and used as leverage. And Papa, this older gentleman, has to find a way to save, his granddaughter, protect his family. But his son resents him because of a secret his son is not aware of that he's kept his whole life. And I wanted to touch on the base that we love women, we're grateful for women. There'd be no life without women, but I do think women will get their flowers plenty of times, but men don't. Men quietly just strap on their boots, do what they have to do, work the job they can't stand. They're kind of struggling inside, but you'd never know it because they just deal with it internally. They come home, and no matter how rough their day was, they still answer the toy phone for their little girl or whatever. So I wanted to do a little homage, pay a little tribute to every man, whether you're a father, husband, whatever, uncle, just average Joe, that makes those silent sacrifices that go unnoticed or unappreciated every day,
Mm-hmm.
while making it a Silver Age action-packed comic book. So he's trying to keep his secret while protecting the family and not kill anybody. He doesn't want to kill anybody. He's a good guy. So it's like we see so many movies where, oh, just why don't you just kill him? Well, because it's not easy to take a life. Would you just go out and kill somebody? Like, you know what I mean?
That's right.
So I wanted to craft this tale, and I've been told it's my best writing to date, and I'm very proud of it. My father loved it. He wanted to see it. It's a 5 issue. It was supposed to be a graphic novel, 5 chapters, 110 pages. My dad wanted to see it in print, but unfortunately, I couldn't. It'd be like 15 grand, and I couldn't get the money up. So I tried to hurry up and get issue one out. He passed away before he got to see it, unfortunately, but
Oh
we did
man.
get issue one out. And even Chuck Dixon, who created Bane and co-created Bane with Graham Nolan and wrote Nightfall and The Punisher, etc., and Robin, he really enjoyed it. He said the dialogue was realistic and it's not easy to pull off, and that ending, he didn't even see the ending coming because issue one
Mm-hmm.
has an ending you will not see coming. So I'm excited. I'm hoping that people give it a shot. Um, it's tough when you have a book called Papa and it's an old man
Mm-hmm.
antagonist, but I'm telling you, it's a worthwhile read, and people will not be disappointed if they check it out.
That's right. And actually, that ties into a point I've been bringing up more recently is that I would actually like to see even more stories set with older characters. I feel like we don't see enough of that.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about diversity in race, but there's
Age
diversity in
diversity.
age.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, not every hero has to be 23 and spry and, with a long coat looking cool and dapper and,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And that's the point too, right? Dads, husbands, uncles, the guy that goes and grinds for his job and has people relying on him every day. That's it. That's a hero. We spend our lives worshiping celebrities but what about your own father, or what about your friend who's struggling working 3 jobs to pay for his family's food and table? That's a freaking hero. They sacrifice every damn day.
That's right. Well, tying a little bit more into the creative side of this story, are there any specific sequences or pages within the first two issues that you're particularly proud of?
Unfortunately, I can't give it away, but the very last page of issue one, I'm very proud of. And the artist Alex Sarabia from Mexico did a fantastic job of interpreting it the way I asked him to,
Love that.
because it's very important. Um, so I was very happy with that. As far as the second book, there are the interactions with him and his granddaughter I really appreciate before she's kidnapped, and just the difference between their perspectives of a 75-year-old man towards the end of his life and a 12-year-old girl just starting life.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a wonderful dynamic to see the life energy that she gives him per se, and the wisdom that he can impart on her, and that meeting in the middle. So there are a few moments in book two that I really enjoyed between the two of them, before it really gets into its
Oh yeah.
its action. So
Absolutely. Well, especially on the writing side of things, how do you approach balancing, kind of like in Papa particular, you got some action, you got some comedy, you got some drama and character introspection. How do you kind of balance all those things on the writing side?
it's funny. It's not a conscious thing. Again, going back to what I said, subconsciously picking up from storytelling from so many movies and books.
Yeah,
I mean, there's the common knowledge that look, you're in a first issue and you don't have a lot of space. You have 24 pages that you
right.
need to get people to know who this character is, at least enough on a level to be invested in them. So, I just write and naturally it comes out. But at the same time, I think I am aware that character development doesn't have to be some boring talking head exposition page.
Exactly.
It could be in the middle of an action scene, the way he reacts to something or what he
Thank you.
says. You
Yes.
know, it doesn't take much for you to understand. Like in tragedy, she's in a therapist's office. That alone says something. And the therapist is asking her questions, and she just goes, we go through this every week. Why are we running in circles? That tells you right there that she's a very guarded person, that
Mm-hmm.
she's protecting herself emotionally. You can develop characters in subtle ways like that. You don't have to be Morgan Freeman in the wormhole and narrate everything and talk down to your audience.
Right.
By if it's a sarcastic quip or if it's a serious tone, a reaction, if they're ultra angry and violent in their response. There's ways for you, just like in real life, to really get a beat on who is this person, just how they react to a situation, never mind dialogue, which goes into the art and the storytelling as well. Getting a good artist to emote those faces, or that body language and posturing.
That's right. The follow up to that kind of is, especially on the artistic side of things, can you touch on what the visual tone that readers can expect getting into these two issues?
Well, I mean, I'm a believer in tight line work. For the most part, Dynamics is the only one I went off uh, kilter on that because I wanted to be more kid friendly. So we did more of a cartoony style. I love
Yes.
cartoon style, but my books I like the more gritty. I'm a big John Byrne fan, David Finch, Mark Silvestri.
Oh yeah.
So like I'm told a lot of my stories are written like 80s books, but drawn like 90s books. But as far as the tone of Papa, it's not dark at all. It's just I wouldn't say it's dark or it's light. It's just life,
Yeah.
which is both. So I think I did a good job of capturing just a realistic world with bombastic situations.
Right. And you touched on this with kind of Chuck Dixon's opinion of the book. Can you share any other reader feedback so far that you've received from the first two issues?
A lot of people tell me that Papa issue one is very emotional, and that they can relate to it because of the familial part of things.
Right.
And that's all ages. Like, because again, there's not just the perspective of Papa and with his son, there's the perspective of the son
Mm-hmm.
with Papa. A lot of people think the son is a jerk in the book, but you're going to find out he was really not. He just didn't understand.
Yep.
And a lot of times things are because of you just don't get what that other person's going through. You
Right.
don't understand what they've sacrificed for you. It's easy to blame. And then there's the perspective of the young girl, the granddaughter. So a lot of people love the emotional context, but they also feel that last page is a huge payoff
Mm-hmm.
and makes them excited to going into book two. And they all say the dialogue is pretty real and that they can relate. And so I really hope people come out because issue two starts to pick up. And the, I did it as a graphic novel because I was concerned. The first chapter is a lot of exposition. It's very heavy exposition and it's setup that's necessary. And the payoff wouldn't work if I didn't do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I was afraid if I did it as a single issue, it would bore people. But I'm really pleasantly surprised. Everyone who has read it has loved it, and they were not bored. They were invested from right from the start. And then again, like I said, they feel like that last page was a payout. It was like, oh, this was worth it. I can't. Yeah, this is good. Where is this going?
Love that. Love
So
hearing that kind of feedback from readers. In terms on the other side, the inverse, can you share any challenges or difficulties that you have faced in getting the book to this point?
usually it's financial. That's everybody's issues, especially in the indie community.
Yeah.
Financially, getting it made is difficult. Um, Sometimes, now not with Papa, but sometimes it's hard to find the right artist for your book, and not
Mm-hmm.
even because they're not a solid artist. They could be great at sequential work, they could be great line work, but maybe they just don't have the style or the feel you're looking for in that
Yeah.
book. Like I have a space adventure book that's supposed to be very swashbuckling. It's a lot of fun, excitement, just good old fun. So I want that to reflect in the art while the art is still clean and tight lines. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes finding the right artist is difficult, especially when you have budget restrictions. And then the other obstacle, and this is no disrespect, is a lot of independent artists are extremely talented but slow.
Yeah, there is that
And
too.
when you're a publisher and you have deadlines, or you want to get a book out, or you want to get to an issue two on Kickstarter, but they take 6, 7 months to draw a book, it's difficult. That's probably my biggest hurdle right now. Like I work with some amazing artists, but they're extremely slow, so I can never get them into distribution. I can't get these books into distro.
Absolutely. This is actually a question you may not have approached yet, but have you thought about a soundtrack or playlist for Papa and what songs or artists would be on it?
I didn't for Papa. I did for Tragedy because
Okay.
Guido Martinez, who does Night, I published for him. He did this awesome '80s style hard rock metal band. He hired
Love
them to
that.
do a theme for Night, and it's
Oh.
on his trailer, and it's really good. So I thought about doing something for Tragedy, more of the metal side. For Papa, that would be interesting, but it would have to be something more soundtrack, cinematic
Mm-hmm.
soundtrack, like a score.
Yeah, I agree with you on that
Where
one.
there's emotion, there's strings and everything, not just like a metal band. It would have to be much more elaborate with some sort of orchestral piece. But that would be interesting because I am a musician, so that would be fun.
Yeah, it would be. I've been bringing it up to a lot of creators, especially if you can figure out how to get like a QR code in the comic somewhere, and people can link to the playlist or soundtrack to kind of pair with it or read after the fact, depending. You've touched on this already too. You mentioned that Papa is a 5 issue miniseries. Are there plans for it after that, or is this a confined story to 5 issues?
I hadn't thought about anything beyond what I wrote, because I don't try to force anything. If there's nothing to say, don't say it, right?
Yeah.
But not too long ago, an idea sparked in my head that makes sense for where this would go going forward for another 5 issue miniseries. So I'm definitely considering it. My problem is I have so many stories in my head, different ideas that I just don't have time to do all this. But at some point, God willing, everything grows to the point where I can start delegating and doing less. I think I would get to a volume two. Yeah.
Absolutely. Shout out to Ryan there in the chat, Ryan Permisson.
Hey Ryan, great show. He has a great show too, by the way.
Excellent. I'll have to check him out. Well, we're going to dive now into the Philbo distribution, which is something else that you're really important and making sure is coming to fruition, which I'm excited for. What was the biggest gap you saw? And I think you touched on this earlier, but what was the biggest gap you saw for indie publishers that traditional distribution or previous distribution wasn't solving?
Well, a couple of things were Diamond was the end all be all, so they were gatekeeping. So they
Yes.
were, and If you're not going to come in with an instant following to get you 1,000, 2,000 print run, they're not interested. Where on the business end, I do understand, look, you're here to make money, but they had so many big companies that easily could have subsidized those smaller runs to help these publishers grow a fan base.
Yes.
Are they obligated to do that? Of course not. They're a business. But for the health of the industry, I think it would have been wiser. I mean, we had Concrete and Strangers in Paradise and She and Ninja Turtles. I mean, indie has proven that it can sell. It can become something if you
Oh
give it
yeah.
enough eyes. So I think that the main thing was that they were just gate kept out because they didn't have that brand. And the conundrum is, well, it's the same thing if you go to Image to try to get published. They're like, well, we don't think that you have enough of a following. Well, that's why I need you. Why am I paying you to put Image on the front of my book if I already have a following? If I already have the following, I don't need you. Why would I pay you?
Exactly.
And it's this vicious cycle. So I was like, well, how do you I wanted to create a system that creates autonomy for small publishers. That I believe in the free market. Let the reader decide, let the collector decide if the book is good or not. And
Yes.
if it doesn't do well, the publisher will be losing money and they will be forced on their own to stop. But it'll be their decision because they just weren't selling. Because let's face it, we all think our books are great and sometimes they really just aren't.
Yeah.
But that's not from any distributor to decide.
Correct. That's for the
I'm the
market and
mailman.
the audience and the readers to decide that.
Yes, unfortunately, there's still gatekeeping as far as the retailers, but this is more understandable because you're asking them to invest in a book they don't know if they're going to sell. So I do understand that part of it because they need to make money and they can't sit on inventory.
Right.
So um, I'm I have a solution for that as well now, which I've just been looking. People get mad at me when I talk about the things that I feel are wrong with the industry. That's not me crapping on the industry. I love this industry. I love this medium. But that doesn't mean we just bury our head in the sand and continue to watch it sink. I want
Right.
it to
Sometimes
thrive.
truths are uncomfortable.
Yes, and if anything, I'm always uncomfortable. I start these businesses, and my wife thinks I'm crazy, and Billy Tucci says you're nuts, and but I care about the industry as a whole. I mean, I feel I can structure things to where I'm successful and I'm making money, but not on the backs of you, with you.
Right.
And I wanted to restructure things that way. Is there some resistance? Of course there is. There's a lot of old guard that don't want changes because things were in their favor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, things change. And so with the distribution, one solution was we aren't gatekeeping like Diamond. We're giving people an opportunity. Our only criteria is that it has to be a professional level book as far as sequentials and artwork and your logo.
Yep.
Now, art style, I will not turn any book down for art style because that's subjective. Who am I to say? As long as the artwork is on a professional level, like if someone's head is this big and their body's this and one arm's longer than the other and the eyes are like this, that's just not professional level artwork. And we unfortunately can't take that. And maybe the artwork is good, but the sequential storytelling is horrible. Like you're stiff. It's just
Mm-hmm.
panel, panel, panel. But content, art style, we will not gatekeep that. And as long as you can maintain your frequency, whether it's monthly, quarterly, and we will work with you on that, let's give you a shot. And I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, you only sold 5 books, because we have guys that have sold 300, 400 books, some that sold 1,000, some that sell 5. Um, we'll ride it out with you. We do a prepay, which helps keep me floating,
Right.
and so I can sustain those small runs. Because the idea of direct market is to build your following.
Mm-hmm.
That's giving the small publisher a chance that they're in an echo chamber on social media and Kickstarter. They're limited.
That's
Kickstarter
right.
is a wonderful tool, but it cannot be the end all be all. It's just another tool in your belt. So we need direct market to really expand to get out there, and I want them to have that opportunity. We then started the print on demand because there's no money to be made in direct market unless you're selling 5, 10,000 books. And honestly, most people aren't doing that anymore,
Right.
especially indie. So, I mean, you got to look at, you sell a book at $4.99, which is already expensive now, for kids to want to buy a book. You got you're giving 40 to 50% to the retailer, and then the distributor is taking his percentage. Now you're looking at maybe you're walking away with a dollar 25 or whatever per book, but it costs you $4 to print the damn book.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the red for $3 a book. You can't sustain.
That's
So
not good business. Period.
no, no. But now we do print on demand,
Mm-hmm.
and the price that we're charging if you're in our distribution is so low, and it includes our distribution fee, that even at a 50% discount to the store, you'll walk away with anywhere from 50 cents to a dollar per book. And you're saving on shipping, which is another overhead cost.
Huge. That's huge, especially with the ridiculous continuous increase with the USPS.
Yeah, they just went up 8% again, and they
Yeah,
always go up before the holidays. I mean, think about it. If you're Dynamite or I'll give you Titan Comics, they're in the
great
UK.
example. Yep.
Titan Comics, maybe they print their books for $1.70 each. Great. But by the time they spend money in shipping to the US to get in the US market and they get through customs, not only are their books probably always late, but now they're paying like $3.45 a book because of the shipping costs. Well, where's the savings in that? And then, you know, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. There we go.
I
You're
lost you.
freezing up a little bit.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you're
Okay.
in between there.
People like, oh, we can offset. Okay, but those aren't digital printers. All right. Yeah, we keep dropping out. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go. Now you're back on.
So a lot of people say, well, you can do offset printing. Yes, but that's not a digital printer. So they do plate changes, which means that if you have 4 different covers, you have to pay $250 for each plate change on those covers. That's $1,000 right there for 4 covers. So you've
Phew.
just eaten up your discount on the offset price, and then you have to invest in 2,000 to 3,000 issues that you don't know if you're selling those. Now you're sitting on inventory. One, do I
Yes.
have the money to throw 3,000 down to begin with? And two, do I want to be sitting on inventory? Do I have space for inventory? A lot of indie people are working out of home. So we eliminate all those issues. We are a digital printer giving you the lowest prices that are pretty much, if you're in distribution, they really are pretty much offset prices because you have to include the fact that that price includes our distribution fee. I'm
That's
packing and
right.
shipping your books. You're using my connection to all the stores. So for $2, you're paying $2 to print your book and have it direct market shipped. I mean, how do you do any better than that? You can't.
No, you can't. Well, the next question I have is kind of tying all into this into how readers can benefit. How does that broader distribution change what kind of books readers are able to discover?
And that's the thing. Independents are all over the place with different ideas and genres, kind of like manga.
Yeah.
Manga is doing very well because manga will make a chef into some story that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just demon hunters. They'll take espionage, a chef, pirates. They're just all over the place, but it works because they do character development and they're not beholden to these corporate interests
Right.
and soapbox agendas. Unfortunately, the West is stuck in all that right now. And independents are like manga. They're free thinking, they're free flowing, they're thinking outside the box, they're trying to come up with new stuff. Not everybody does, but there are. Well, now with the opportunity being direct market, you walk into your comic store, you're not just Spider-Man, Superman, Batman. Now it's like, oh, what's this? This looks interesting. This tragedy. Wow, what this character looks really cool. Like, what is this
Mm-hmm.
about? And you pick up the book and you give it a try, and you may wind up finding that next book that you really love every month. I mean, there's only so many stories you can tell about Batman, Superman before it's been done before, and that's no
Right.
disrespect to them. It's just life.
That's the reality, is that there's only so many stories you can tell, for a given character. Getting into our closing section now, but still some really great questions. Phil, if you can for us, any stories or memorable interactions you can share of people, appreciative of your work as a creator and a distributor, and or an interaction where you got to meet a creator that you were a big fan of.
Well, as far as a fan, I have a book, Arcane Syndicate, which is the Universal Monsters as a superhero team. And I don't know this individual, but they Facebook messaged me out of nowhere. We're not friends. And they said, I've been a comic collector of over 40, 50 years, and I have over 100,000 comics. And I have to tell you that Arcane Syndicate was the most fun I had reading a comic in the last 20 years. And
Wow.
that just felt wow. Yeah, so that was an amazing reaction. Getting people like Chuck Dixon, the late great Peter David, and Howard Mackey telling me that my writing is solid, that they enjoy tragedy is huge.
Yeah.
As far as and meeting these people, Peter David I met when I was running my own shows, and Chuck Dixon and Howard Mackey, some of my favorite writers. Um, they're just meeting them and getting their feedback is just phenomenal for me. And then becoming friends with people like Will Spertasio, one of the founding image,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Legend. He's a legend at this point.
yeah, and he had said to me, and I'm so grateful for this. We were at San Diego 2 years ago, and he said, Phil, you're doing great stuff here, and the comic world needs you because you have the passion that a lot of people have lost in it becoming a business, but you also have the business side and the product, and you know what you need to do to get out there. And he goes, this industry needs you. Just keep going. You'll get there. Um, and that means a lot. And then like Sean Chen had said some wonderful things about me. And these are people that I grew up looking at their bodies of work, and it's amazing. It's like being a struggling actor, and Morgan Freeman and Tom Cruise telling you, "Dude, you're doing great. We'd love to work with you, and
Mm-hmm.
and we think you're doing awesome." So it's just it's humbling, but it's awesome.
It totally is. Well, if you can share for us, do you have any upcoming podcast appearances, store signings, additional, actually being at conventions of any kind, anything in that realm?
Well, because we're in the midst of getting this POD up and running, and people. I don't know if people understand how large an undertaking it is to create a worldwide distribution network
Yeah.
and print on demand. And I'm a one man show. Well, one man and one woman, Maura Powers, who is my product manager, who's soon to be a minority percentage partner, has been phenomenal. But it's really just the two of us doing everything for the most part. I hire people, but they're on 1099s. They're not running the business.
Right.
So with all the POD going on, I don't have any shows coming up right away. I am going as a fan to Garden State Comic Fest on the 27th and 28th in New Jersey of June. I will be going to Terrificon as a fan in August. But my next action, and then I do the Hot Flip shows once, usually once a month. It's a 1 day show here in Long Island. But the next one I'll be at is I will be at New York Comic Con, a guest at the Hot Flips booth up on the main floor. They are a sponsor of the show. They're very kind. Every year they let me sit with them. And New York Comic Con, as you know, it's a mega show, so it's great to be there. I had to cancel my San Diego appearance. Unfortunately, I had two panels, but next year, and next year will come out stronger with everything running, and hopefully really build things and created buzz.
I'm with you too. I won't be there this year as well, unfortunately, but next year, hopefully, maybe we can even put some panels together next year.
Yeah, that'd be great, man.
Well, Phil, where can people find you and Philbo online and follow along with all the great things you're working on?
Well, if you go to Instagram or Facebook and you type in Philbo Publishing, basically you'll get us on there. We do have a Philbo distribution group that's for everything related to the distribution. But you get your main news and main things from I have my Instagram page under Phil Russert, but my Facebook Philip Russert, because Facebook likes to bury business pages
It sure does.
and groups. So I go off my main page, and that's where I get a lot of interaction and feedback. So if you go there, you're likely to see more of what's going on than anywhere.
Excellent. Fun
Oh,
question
and I'm
for.
sorry, www.filbodistribution.com. The fans have the power. If you can look at the catalog as a fan, and if you
Yep.
see books that interest you and you think they look really cool, tell your retailer, because
Yes.
the retailers are more apt to actually order from us if they know they've got those 5, 6, 7 guaranteed sales. Otherwise, they're taking a gamble, and it's a lot to ask on a small business. So You have the power. Go look at that catalog every month. Tell them what you want in your pull list. Tell them you want to order from Filbo. And not only are you helping us, but you're getting the books you want. You're helping that publisher continue to grow so you can continue to get those books that you really enjoy that you won't find anywhere else.
That's right. I love that. Well, if, said a fun question for you, Phil. What is your favorite snack or meal to give yourself some energy to work on a project?
And it's funny, I don't eat as much as I used to. I love ice cream
Oh, me
and I
too.
love pizza. I could live off it. But snack wise, lately I've just been eating pretzels, thin pretzels. I've just been chomping them things up. I like, salty goodness.
I
But
do too.
yeah, I don't eat like I used to, though. I've
I
lost
don't,
80 pounds
yeah, it's not an easy thing to do to lose weight. It's really not, especially when in the U.S. where unhealthy food is everywhere.
and more affordable.
That too. That's a great
Yeah,
point.
we're paying less when they put more preservatives in it. I don't understand.
No, it does not make any sense. Well, Phil, it's been awesome having you on the show today, diving into
Thank
your
you.
background and working on, especially on Papa 2. And Phil's going to have a stream tonight to launch that. Is there any last thoughts you'd like to share, Phil, before we head out?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. Shows like yours are important. I really hope people subscribe and follow Jameson's show because he's gonna give a voice to guys like me that maybe you didn't know were around, and you might find whether it's me and my books or books that we carry, you may find something really new and interesting in a world that's kind of regurgitating the same crap. So support these small live streams and help them grow to be big. Um, be careful who you listen to as an influencer in this industry because everybody's got a motivation. Listen to
Yep,
people that care about the health of the industry, not the health of their channel. And support indie because I'm telling you, fresh new ideas. We're not using our books as soapboxes to preach at you anything. And it's brand new adventures, new characters that you can fall in love with. And if you're worried, yeah, but how do I know I'm going to get to an issue 5? You'll know if all of you start buying the book.
that's right.
You've got to support it. It doesn't magically support itself. We need you. So please support indie as well as mainstream. We want a healthy comic industry. We want everybody succeeding. We want options. We want choices. But the fans are the ones that are going to create that. The vacuums come when fans don't support.
That's
So
right.
please support.
So that's right, everybody. Make sure you, as a reader, you go and support the comics and the things you want to read. Make sure you can support them. And if you can't support them financially, you can always share. And at some point, especially when you have a collected or a trade, you can ask your library to order copies too. So, but everybody out there, thank you for joining us on Comics for All today. We've had an audience the entire time, which has been wonderful. This has been Comics for All once again, where comics, creativity, and community all connect. And we'll see everybody next time. Take care.
Papa 2 live tonight.
That's right.